Hey, deserving listeners, a new season of 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. I have a new haircut and a new shirt. Thanks for noticing. And if you ever want to interact with me, the best way to interact is on Patreon by becoming a patron of the podcast. So do so now if you care to. It's the best way you can support us. Let's watch the show.
I can teach my Zoom classes online. I can do lots of things. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I'm there, I have a great time.
Because you're on vacation.
But you're on vacation.
It's not living there.
Tiempo. Can we focus here? You're fantasizing about this life you're going to have in DR. How are you going to afford it? How?
I'm going to manifest it.
All right, so I've been watching for a while, and I thought I'd react to this, where she says I'm going to manifest it. This is going to be a little bit of a sensitive thing that I'm going to talk about, but let's review what we've learned so far about Danielle. She's 42. She lives in New York City. She doesn't like how expensive it is. She's a high school history teacher, and she has a yoga business. And just a little bit about how expensive it is, I'm thinking, well, yeah, I mean, you're in New York City. There's a lot of other places in the United States that are not as expensive. But anyway, she wants to go live in Dominican Republic with her husband, whom she's already married to, Yohan, I believe his name is. I think they are from a different show, the Love in Paradise spinoff show. I didn't watch that season. I did watch the first season. Anyway, so she wants to go live there. Originally, I think he was going to come to the States, but now she wants to move there. And the friends are asking her, well, how are you going to make this work financially? How are you going to make it work in terms of being fulfilled in life? And she's saying, well, I'm just going to go to the beach. And they're like, well, how are you going to eat? And it's like, well, I'm going to eat mangoes. And then they're like, well, is there something else you can do? And then she's like, well, I can teach a yoga class and I can do Zoom classes online. And that sounds like a viable business. I don't know, but sounds like an option. I think she has clients that she might be able to work with. And then, of course, being on a show like this will drastically increase your reach to the world, which I'm guessing you could parlay into a career of teaching things online. But anyway, so they are asking her questions like, how are you going to make this work? And she says, I'm going to manifest it. Okay, so what do people mean by manifest? Well, I'll tell you, the very first time I had heard about this would have been 25 years ago-ish. I had a friend that had this picture of this nice house on her corkboard by her computer. And I asked about it, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to manifest." It's called manifestation. I don't know if that's what they called it, but it was basically the same concept. And it was that she lived in a house that she was renting, and it was small, and she didn't like it, and she wanted a bigger house. And so she had this picture of a house that was like a house that she would want. And if she looked at it every day, she believed that eventually the universe would align with her vision and that she would get that house. So on one hand, that's magical thinking. It is supernatural thinking, which is, I suppose, fine. I mean, people believe in all sorts of supernatural things, and we don't look down on that. Obviously, sometimes that can lead to a lot of problematic behaviors on an individual and on a national level when people act on supernatural beliefs, like those people in that other country are believing in a false god and we must snuff them out, that kind of a thing. Obviously, there's genocidal problems in our history as humans that are a manifestation of supernatural beliefs. So, supernatural beliefs can be anywhere from benign to problematic. There are some positive researched effects of supernatural beliefs, having a meaning in life, providing resilience. There's a lot of benefits, community, right? So it's a mixed bag, of course. And when it comes to manifestation, I think at its core, it's a supernatural belief that is not based on science. And we've looked at it before. We have looked into not only just manifestation, but positive thinking. And there is a signal there. There is data to suggest that when people think positively, they tend to have better outcomes. It depends on the situation, and it's on average. And of course, if you have cancer, for example, and you just think positively, it's not going to cure your cancer. it might give you a better perspective, or it might improve your symptoms slightly. Your pain might go down, for example, if you think positively. It's very complicated. But with manifestation, might it be that? Might it be a manifestation of that effect, in which when you focus on, let's say that my friend who's trying to manifest that she wants to have this house, and she believes that it's a supernatural thing, that if she focuses on it, that eventually the universe will give her the house or something. I don't know. Well, another way of looking at it is that she every day is looking at the house and she's orienting her mind toward it, so that during the day, whether subconsciously or consciously, she will take actions to get that house. So, for example, she comes across her car and her car isn't that great. And she's like, oh, I should buy a new car. But because earlier in the day, she focused on the mansion or the house. It wasn't a mansion. It was just a regular sort of suburban house. But she's looking at the house and she says, well, maybe I should hold off buying a new car because I'm trying to save up for a down payment for the house. You could absolutely see that happening, right? And that's not a supernatural effect. That is just focus and reminding yourself about your priorities, keeping your eye on a goal, that sort of thing. So is it that there's evidence that praying actually can produce an effect like that? Like if you have a friend that is suffering from unemployment and you pray for your friend every day, then that's a reminder to pay attention to your friend and to reach out to them, to keep them in your thoughts. And you might even reach out to them and say, I prayed for you. And if they take that as a compliment, that could give them energy, that could give them hope, that could give them love and attunement, and give them the energy maybe to send out some applications or to persevere through the unemployment times. So these are well-known phenomena that we have studied for decades. So when she says, I'm going to manifest it, which one is it? Is it one or the other? If anyone were to use prayer or manifestation or some other belief like this, I grew up Christian, so I remember the ministers, the wise ones anyway, the way they would frame it would say, look, pray to God and ask for whatever it is that you're trying to have in life, whether it's health or you're trying to get a job or you want the world to have peace or whatever. For sure, ask God, but God wants, this is the ministers talking, they would say, God wants you to take action. They don't want you just to sit back and say, okay, God, you take the wheel and I'll just let you drive the car and I'll just be lazy and do nothing. No, God wants you to do something about it. So that's another way of thinking about it, right? That if you're trying to manifest something, sure, believe in the manifestation phenomena. It's a belief system. But also do something. Make sure that you're trying to accomplish it through actual concrete, pragmatic action, right? And I don't know what she means by that. I haven't seen much of Danielle yet, so I don't know what her deal is. But so she does have a plan, right? But it seems kind of flippant. She's like, I don't know, I'll do yoga class. But I don't know, it is a plan. So I don't know how to evaluate this, because for some people, I could imagine that, well, okay, so let's hypothesize for Danielle. From my impression, financially, things are not going well for her. And also, she seems to be talking about the pressures of city life, which, you could imagine living in New York City, that being true. I used to live downtown Seattle, and yeah, there were downsides to living downtown. I mean, right outside my door to my condo, there were, I don't know if I can even talk about my door went into an alleyway. And although it was a pretty clean alleyway in Seattle, it was still an alleyway. And there were, let's just say, all the things that you imagine happening in an inner city would happen, including gunshots. My bed, I was on ground level, and there was a gun shootout just literally 15 feet from where I was sleeping in the middle of the night, pop, 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 Jesus. And, I'm like running and hiding under the under the toilet or something. Oh my God. So it was, stressful, a lot more stressful than living other places, more stressful than where I'm living now, of course. There are benefits, of course, because I could walk everywhere and I'd never had to get in my car, and it was vibrant and interesting and fun, and take the good with that. So it's possible that for her, she really wants an out. She's really looking, she needs there to be an out. She needs there to be a solution. And she is fantasizing and believing in some, like with Darcy, for example, one hypothesis, one conceptualization of her issue is that because Darcy is so desperate for closeness and attachment and companionship and love, of which I don't think she fundamentally thinks she will ever be able to get, because I think she believes she's fundamentally flawed at the core. I think that's why she does a lot of things to try to mask the fact that she has flaws. I think she does a lot of things to try to mask that physically and otherwise. But she's so desperate for it to work that when she meets someone for the first time, she's like, oh my God, it's happening. We're in love. He's going to ask me to marry him. This is perfect. He's perfect. Everything is great. Even though it's literally the first date and there would be no rational reason to take it that far. So when we are desperate, when we're sad and stressed out and we feel trapped, we need a fantasy. And sometimes we'll take that fantasy too far and we'll just believe that it's true. I had a similar situation to this when I was in graduate school many years ago, and I was very stressed out. I didn't know what my financial future was going to hold. I was going further and further into debt because of school loans, and I wasn't able to work that much. And I don't know, just very stressed out. I liked my life, and I had a good life, and I was happy with being in graduate school, but it's just a lot of pressure. It's hard. Graduate school is not only hard financially and time-wise and cognitively, but being in graduate school to become a therapist, it rocks you to your very core. I mean, every unfortunate corner of your personality becomes manifested. All of your bad qualities come out as a human being. You become defensive and insecure and angry and sad, and I don't know. It's rough. If you're in graduate school, you've been through graduate school, particularly to become a therapist, you understand. Anyway, so for me, I noticed that I started having this fantasy of becoming a monk and literally living in a cave in the middle of the wilderness and just meditating all day. And I found myself having this intrusive fantasy of just like, I'll just sell all my possessions and I'll just move to a different country and like run away from my school loans, and I'll never have to pay them back, and I won't have to interact with anyone. I won't have any obligations, and all I will do is just sit in this cave in some sort of comfy robe, and I will just stare into in my head, the cave was in a mountain, and I had this view of a valley or something, and I would just stare at the sunset and just be at peace. And I didn't realize it until later that the whole reason why I had that fantasy was because of how stressed out I was, and the fantasy represented this opposite life that didn't have any of the pressure and the trappings of what I was trapped in my current life. As my life improved, I graduated, started paying off my debt, my career started to become more certain. That fantasy just disappeared. It just completely just dissipated. And at the time, if you would have asked me when I was having those fantasies, what's the chance of you doing something along those lines? I would have been like, yeah, probably, 25%. But as soon as my life became less stressful, it was 0%. It sounds like a fine life for someone else, but certainly not for me. So for Danielle, it's possible that given all the pressure that she's under and she doesn't know how to get out of it, it could be possible that living in Dominican Republic is this for her, that it just feels like the opposite of New York City and of American capitalism. It's just this completely different world that doesn't have any of the negative pressures that she's under in the United States. Also, as her friends are pointing out, you've always been there on vacation. So, of course, you have positive associations with that place, but you weren't living there, you understand? You didn't have to pay bills, you didn't have to pay rent, that sort of thing. So they're talking with her about that.
Ins and out of, life with Yohan in the Dominican Republic. Life is more than just sundresses and walking barefoot on the beach, right? Like, just prepare yourself.
all of the concerns that my friends are raising are in the what if category, and I don't really worry about the what ifs. I just want to enjoy my life with the love of my life in a slower pace near the ocean.
Okay, nothing wrong with wanting that, of course. But she says, I don't live in the what if category. I don't know. They didn't give us much of a background, but there's a possibility that that policy of hers of not living in the what if lifestyle has led to the pressure that she's under in New York City. Because certainly, literally millions of people survive in New York City, and a big part of survival in any place is considering the what ifs, right? What if I lose my job? What if I become ill? What if... Now, for many people, the way the American economy works, it doesn't allow you to do anything about it. You know, plenty of people will say, well, what if I lose my job? What'll I do? Well, a lot of people literally just have no option or no time to even think about it because they're working two full-time jobs and they're raising 3 kids. So it's unfortunate that our American economy has the income disparity that it does, but it's possible. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with her because I guess we'll find out. Let's continue watching.
So Yohan thinks that we're going to live in the Dominican Republic until his visa interview is scheduled and his visa is approved, and then we're going to come to the U.S. when he gets his green card. That's like the plan in his head. But I haven't applied for the visa yet.
Does he know that?
Yes, I think so. Like he hasn't.
Does he know that?
Yes, he knows that. I think he knows that.
No, I think so is not yes.
I haven't said to him, by the way, I haven't applied for the visa yet, but I also haven't said to him, oh, I just applied for the visa.
Okay. I don't know what exactly she is saying. I think what she is saying is that she hopes that her husband understands by the fact that she hasn't mentioned it, that she hasn't applied for the visa, meaning that she's moving forward with getting the paperwork done so that he could come to the United States. And she is saying, well, I haven't told him I haven't told him I didn't do it, but I haven't told him I have done it. So he should just know that I haven't done it. And I don't know, maybe we'll learn more, but that doesn't seem, it'd be like if my wife was like, hey, I need you to take me to the hospital tomorrow because I have a very important surgery. And then let's just say for whatever weird pathological reason, I just decide that I don't want to do it. And then the next morning, I'm just like, well, I didn't tell her I'm not going to take her to the hospital. I haven't told her that I'm going to either. So she should just figure that I'm not going to. What? Because I'm pretty sure the original agreement was that was going to happen, right? That was the what. So maybe I'm missing something.
My plan is just to keep it moving unless he fights. I mean, if I don't apply for a visa, he can't go anywhere. So I could just hold on to his marriage certificate and never apply for a visa.
Oh, that's a great way to start a marriage.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I don't know. Maybe Danielle has a reason to be this way. Maybe Yohan is a big jerk face, and so she has to draw these sort of boundaries. But from the onset, the description, it sounds very self-assured and hostile and unfair. But I don't know. Let's reserve judgment. Let's continue watching.
Yes.
I did tell Yohan that I would apply for the spousal visa so that we can live in the U.S. But the more times I go back and forth to the Dominican Republic, the more times I realize I don't want to be in New York.
Totally. Absolutely. You now have changed your mind. You originally agreed you'd come to the States. You've changed your mind. That is fine. Work with your husband. It's a joint decision. So don't just decide and self-centeredly decide that, well, but that's what I want. I don't know. Maybe they've had conversations. Let's watch.
I had a pension consultation, and they told me that if I stayed one more year, it's like the difference between like $15,000 a year more.
So why is that not on the table?
Because like an extra $15,000 a year when I'm 63 isn't going to be that meaningful to me. And that's the only place he can be with me right now is there.
I mean, the friends, I'm just sort of laughing at their quiet astonishment. And, okay, I mean, Danielle is free to live her life, and if she wants to make a decision, and we don't know, sometimes I just wish that they would just give us like 3 minutes of a full rundown, which of course would be ridiculous. But this is what I'm always looking for is like, give me the numbers here. Can we talk to their accountant? Like they should have an accountant that comes on and says, here's what I found. And they just sort of report the findings. Here's what her pension is. Here's what she owes. Here's what her finances were. Here's what her expenses were. Here's what it'll look in the Dominican Republic. Here's what her earning potential is on Zoom yoga classes or whatever. So I just wanted to see the rundown because on one hand, the way that they're playing it, it sounds like Danielle is just making a terrible financial decision. On the other hand, who knows? I mean, she's talking about a pension, but it sounds like that doesn't kick in until she's in her 60s. I don't know. I just wish that someone would come on and just show the full ledger because I don't know how foolish this is. Now, of course, she can make that choice. Hopefully she's talked with her husband. A lot of times on the show, the Americans on the show will just unilaterally, self-centeredly make these decisions, especially about financial matters, because they believe that because they have the power, that means that they get to wield that power, which is not fair, right? So I don't know if we're seeing a precursor of that. Hopefully not. All right. Well, if you didn't know, we have merch. You can buy T-shirts and mugs and whatnot in the link below. You can also get a cameo. It's kind of fun to wish people happy birthday now and then. And I usually try to sing a song or something to spruce it up. And everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.